The strictest social distancing measures since the start of the Covid-19 pandemic are in effect in Hong Kong, as the city struggles to stop the spread of the highly contagious Omicron variant. Despite this, daily cases keep hitting record highs. Other parts of the world are moving towards lifting restrictions, deciding it's better to live with COVID. But Hong Kong's leaders are determined to continue its dynamic zero infection strategy. So what exactly does that mean? Hong Kong is largely following the lead of mainland China, which adopted dynamic COVID zero in August 2021 to fight against the Delta variant. It includes a wide range of measures, including mass testing, tight border controls, extensive contact tracing, and snap lockdowns in an effort to stop outbreaks as they emerge. But the exact measures to be taken have largely been left to local health authorities. How authorities react depends on how an outbreak spreads and the resources each place has to contain it. Some outbreaks are dealt with severely, others with a more nuanced approach. For example, an outbreak in the city of Xi'an in December 2021 prompted authorities to put the entire population of nearly 13 million under a strict lockdown that lasted over a month. Residents were only allowed to leave their homes to be tested for the disease. Compare this with an outbreak in Shanghai in January that prompted a more targeted approach. Shoppers and staff were not allowed to leave a milk tea shop and a Uniqlo clothing store for 2 days until everyone inside tested negative for COVID-19 after suspected cases were traced back to these locations. Meanwhile, in the capital Beijing, some housing compounds were locked down and their residents tested after more than 20 new cases were reported just days before the start of the Winter Olympics. So, different methods for different places across the mainland. Hong Kong's dynamic zero infection strategy has been more targeted and on a smaller scale. A fifth wave of infections began around the Lunar New Year. Short, sharp lockdowns characterised the opening stages. One public housing estate was isolated for a week after the virus was detected and residents were required to be tested. Other blocks have been locked down for shorter periods. Since then, tens of thousands of residents have been tested daily for COVID-19 after coronavirus was detected in sewage samples in their districts. Instead of mandatory universal testing, which is common on the mainland, rapid antigen tests are being secured for every resident in the city to be used for early detection. And flights from 9 countries deemed to be Omicron hotspots, including the US and the UK, have been temporarily banned. Hong Kong's measures are not as strict as some places in the mainland because of several factors. The city's COVID-19 testing capacity only reached 100,000 per day in January. And unlike the mainland, Hong Kong will not currently track residents' movements because of privacy concerns. The city's residents are required to use its Leave Home Safe app to scan before entering places like restaurants and government facilities. Data on the app is stored for a month for use in contact tracing and mandatory testing orders if a positive case is traced to a venue. But the app does not have a tracking function, and unlike on the mainland, no personal data is required to use it. Experts say Hong Kong just doesn't have the resources for a citywide lockdown. Even though Hong Kong authorities cannot implement measures as severe as its mainland counterparts, its leaders are still determined to stick with the dynamic zero infection strategy. There are 2 key reasons for this. The majority of the city's most vulnerable elderly residents remain unvaccinated, and the rapid spread of the disease is likely to cause many deaths in the demographic. And crucially, officials from the central government in Beijing and Chinese state media have warned that deviating from the zero COVID infection approach would result in disaster for Hong Kong and delay the resumption of quarantine-free travel with the mainland. Hong Kong authorities have repeatedly said border reopening is a top priority before opening the city to the rest of the world. So amid a rapidly worsening situation in Hong Kong, the dynamic zero infection strategy looks here to stay.